I'm back in Colorado, so going back to Bally's tonight and hopefully run up a stack. So
What's up, guys? I want to keep this intro short and sweet. I played one of the biggest pots in my life and cashed out for the most I've ever cashed out for in my life, so that's pretty awesome. Played 1-3 at Bally's and it was an absolute blast, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. So hopping into the first interesting hand of the night, I looked down at ace-jack offsuit when a couple of people limped to me. I'm in the big blind. It seems like a good enough spot to raise it up, so I make it $16 to go, and only the button makes the call. Flop comes pretty bad. It's 7-6-3 rainbow. I completely missed, but that does not stop me from c-betting here. In hindsight, I think a check would probably be the best, especially against this particular opponent who seems to really hate folding. But I bet anyway, and the button makes the call. Turn comes a 4, and now I'm sitting here with ace high and thinking, how am I going to win this pot? Might as well just keep betting into this opponent who hates to fold. As you probably can tell, I kind of hate how I played this hand, but I end up betting out for $35 this time, trying to continue the story that I have a strong hand here, something like an overpair, maybe, something like that. And the button makes the call. Pot has now ballooned to $138, and the river comes a queen. Maybe I can rep this queen here. I'm not really sure. I also don't think this villain is particularly strong here, because I think I would have seen a raise at some point. But on the other hand, I've already been caught bluffing earlier in this session against the same exact guy, so seems like a bad idea for me to blast off. In real time, though, I remember thinking, fuck it, let's just pretend I'm going for value here. So with ace high in a dream, I simply bet 1/2 pot, make it $75, and action is back on the button now, and he tanks for a while here. He starts talking to me, and I just keep staring at the cards, praying for a fold. He says, you know what, I think you actually have it this time, and he folds, so I get my first bluff through on the day. I insta-show him the bluff, and we have a good laugh about it. He was a good sport. He was a cool guy, and we had a ton of pots together throughout the session, so you'll see more from him. Okay, so luckily we won that last one. Let's see if we can do it again. So this hand is against the same opponent, and I look down at king-queen suited. I open things up to $12. When it folds to me, I'm in middle position, and I get 4 callers. At this point, I have shown 2 or 3 bluffs, and I'm pretty sure everyone thinks I'm full of shit, so my plan here is to tighten up and get called light when I have good hands. The pot is $60, and we see a flop of king of spades, 7 of spades, 10 of clubs. Pretty epic flop for me as I have top pair, but being 5-handed is never easy to navigate. I think checking or betting really small here are the only 2 plays. So I decide to bet out $12, and I guess everyone has a little piece of the board because I get 4 callers once again. Pot is now $120, and the turn is the queen of clubs. So now I have 2 pair, and there are 2 flush draws on board. It checks to me, and I bet super small again for $25 this time. The guy on my direct left then raises it up to $75. I've seen this player make this exact same play with just a flush draw earlier, so I'm not super worried about it, but when the button flat calls, which was the same opponent from the ace-jack hand, I'm a little scared. The other 2 players fold, action's back on me, and I decide to flat here because 2 pair is a good hand. Pot is now $385, and I'm just praying for any red card, and that is not what we get at all. The turn is the 2 of clubs completing the backdoor flush draw. This absolutely sucks for me. I'm assuming at least one of these guys has a flush here. I check to the guy who raised the turn, but he now checks to the button, but then the button ends up jamming for about $125. It's my action, but I look over to see the guy who is left to act behind me. Looks like he is about to insta-muck, so I don't really have to worry about him. And then a new player to the game, a new player to poker that is, says to the guy next to him, I just mucked the nut flush. So now I know that there's 2 clubs dead here, including the ace of clubs, which is a lot of information. And I told him he shouldn't say stuff like that, but I heard it, and I have all this information now. And I think I probably could find a fold in a lot of situations, but not after hearing that the nut flush is folded and the guy behind me is going to insta-muck. So with that information in mind, and the size of the bet is pretty small relative to the size of the pot, I just make the call, hoping for a bluff of some sort. But no, I get shown 3-4 of clubs, and I lose to a little baby flush. Such a bummer to lose this $585 pot. But hey, I think I made the best decision based off a ton of information that I probably shouldn't have been given. But yeah, moving on. Okay, so for this next hand, my logic is a little easier to follow. There's a button straddle on for $6, and there are 3 people that limp to me. I make it $25 in the cutoff after looking down at the almighty piss missiles. The button straddle folds, and the big blind, the low jack, and the hijack decide to make the call. There have been so many multi-way pots in this video, but things have been crazy at this table. So with 106 bones in the middle, all my worries about going multi-way are put to rest when the flop comes ace 9-9. I just flop myself top boat. No big deal. I'm running pretty good today. I check for deception, hoping that one of the other 3 players in the pot hit somehow, but unfortunately it checks through. The turn is an 8 and it checks me once again, and this time I realize I have to start building a pot. So I bet about 1/3 here. I bet about $35, and only the big blind makes the call. The pot is now $176, and the river is a 10. Checks to me once again, and the big blind only has about $125 left in his stack. So I go for it all. I announce all in, and the villain snap folds. But thankfully, I end up winning this pot, even though we went 5 ways to a flop. Aces are not getting cracked today. Okay, so for this one, I peel back the ace-4 of spades, and if you look at it just right, it looks like I have aces once again. And in the cutoff, anything that looks like aces is good enough for me to raise it up. So I make it $15 to go, and both the button and the big blind make the call. Going to a flop with $45 in the middle, the flop comes the ace of clubs, the 10 of clubs, and the 7 of spades. Good little flop for me. I have top pair and a backdoor spade draw. The big blind checks to me, and I lead out for 1/3 pot like I would do here most of the time for value or just as a bluff. Both players end up making the call. Honestly, I wasn't expecting both people to call, so the turn is a jack of diamonds. Looks clean to me. The big blind checks to me again, and this time I check it back for some pot control because also I could be easily out-kicked. Somebody could have a better ace, and I kind of just want to switch to check call mode for some reason. It's kind of what I was feeling in the moment. The button then decides to lead out for $45 this time, and the big blind makes the fold. That pretty much gives me the green light to call and then check call any river. So that is what I do. I'd call here, and the river is the 2 of diamonds. So the flush draw breaks out, and I check again. The button then bets for $40 this time, which is a down bet from his previous turn bet. The pot's about $180, and he bet about $40. I don't really know what he was trying to accomplish here. It feels too small for value. It feels too small for a bluff. I really have no idea what this bet is doing here. I'm never, ever folding for that price. If you really wanted to put me to the test, maybe 2/3, maybe a pot size bet, maybe even an over bet here, I might consider folding, but not for this price, especially when he could easily just have missed clubs here. So that is what I end up going with. I make the call here for the $40 at the end, and I was in fact correct. He shows king 4 of clubs for a missed club draw. So glad he didn't bet big, and I win the pot. Okay, so for this next hand, it's definitely the hand of the night, and it's also the biggest 1-3 hand I have ever seen, not just played. Pretty crazy stuff about to happen. At this point, I've run my stack up from about $400 to about 1.4K. So I'm already up about $1,000-ish bucks on the session. So you could say things are going pretty swimmingly. The villain in this hand has about 1.1K or so, maybe a little more than that. So we are both super deep for this game. I look down at the absolute piss missiles once again. And action starts with a new player at the table, open raising to 35 bucks. That's a little over 10x. This guy has been opening and 3-betting almost every single hand, and the sizing was super large. So this is pretty normal for this guy. I'm next to act. I'm to his direct left. I 3-betted up to $100. Feels like a pretty standard sizing to me. Folds back around to the villain, and he decides to make the call. The pot is about $207, and we see the flop of the 9 of spades, the 6 of clubs, and the 3 of diamonds. A very nice flop for me, as this probably never connects with his range, meaning that I most likely have the best hand here majority of the time. The villain then checks to me, and I do not want to slow play my pissers. I've done that before and lost big ones, so in real time, I just want to pile more money into this pot. And against this specific player, I know he's extremely capable of calling me light. The villain checks to me, and I bet out for 1/2 pot or $100, and the villain ends up making the call. The pot is now $406. The turn is a brick 4 of clubs. I'm loving this card as it really doesn't improve many hands. Sure, it brings in a club draw, but that's fine with me. 7-5 here, I guess, would be the nuts, but I don't think this guy would call $100 pre-flop with that hand. I don't think most people would. So I'm getting the feeling that I'm probably still ahead, and I'm very confident at this point in the hand, and I have no intention of slowing down. I bet out for just about half pot once again for about 225, slightly more than half, actually. The villain then thinks for only a moment and makes the call. The pot is now ballooned up very massively for a 1-3 game. It's $857. And the river is the 8 of diamonds. So the most obvious draw, the club draw, misses. Guess 5-7 still good. 7-10. But I just don't see him having a hand like that. So I'm not exactly sure what to do here. The pot is already massive for a 1-3 game, and he has about $700 or $800 left in his stack. I actually don't know the exact amount. I just know that I had about $975 left, and I had him covered. So I was a little confused, and I start to think, should I just check it back? Like, I only really have one pair here, even though it's aces. Is it really that strong? What's going to call an all-in bet here that I'm beating? So I think for a while, going over all my options, and honestly, it feels pretty bad. I don't want to check and lose value. I don't want to bet small, like $200 to $300 and then get check jammed on. I don't know what I would do there. I don't really want to jam because I don't know what worse is going to call. It's a huge pot, so I go over all my options. And I'm still really not sure what the best play is, and I was hoping you guys could let me know what you guys think you would do here. It was a tough spot for me. So would you guys bet small, check, jam. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I still really don't know what I would do if I got put in this situation again. But I end up taking the if he's got me approach and just jamming all in for what is essentially about a pot-sized bet. And this dude just fucking snap calls me.
All in.
All in.
No hesitation. My heart sinks. I definitely feel like I lost this hand. He looks at me, waiting to show, and I sheepishly show my aces, expecting to lose here 100% of the time. He shows 10-9 of clubs for top pair on the flop, a club draw on the turn, and I guess just only a pair of nines on the river. I'm in utter shock, and I think the rest of the table was in shock too, because something like a $2,200 pot is pushed my way in 1-3. That's probably tied for the biggest pot I have ever played, and that previous pot was actually my first ever video made that you guys can check out. And that was in a deep stack 2-5 game. So that's pretty crazy. This is more than like a 700 big blind pot and I won it with one pair. I just feel like that's crazy. And like, I feel like I definitely overplayed my hand here, but I guess it worked out in the end. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. One pair winning 700 plus big blinds just feels a little crazy to me. Okay, so pretty shortly after that massive aces hand, I'm sitting with about $2,800 in my stack, feeling pretty good. I look down at ace queen suited, feeling pretty much unstoppable, but early position decides he wants to make things happen. He raises it up to $25. This is the guy who actually came up to me and said he enjoyed my content, which was the first time that's ever happened to me. Felt pretty cool. If you guys see me, feel free to do the same. Love that kind of stuff. The person next to act ends up making the call, and I decide I don't like people who like my videos. So I 3-bet him up here to $80. I'm just kidding. If you see me, come talk to me. It'd be cool. Folds around to one of the limpers who then just jams blind for $81. Folds back around to me, and I have a tough decision here. Should I make the call for $1 more? No, I'm just kidding. I make the snap call, and then I find out that the person who jammed actually never checked his cards. So we've got a very big gamble hand here.
Hearts.
I mean, as long as you don't get a pair, I have a chance.
Right. Well, you have a. You never know.
I definitely have a 3. It's your favorite card. I definitely have a 3.
All right, ace queen, ace king. Oh. Nice hand.
So I guess the cards don't really matter. I end up winning with ace queen high here against a really cool guy. Nice $210 pot. Pushed my way to end a beautiful session. So as you guys could probably tell, that was an absolutely fantastic game over there at Bally's. Lots of action, super deep stacks. Can't believe that ace's hand. I'm still in shock. I feel like I played it so bad, just overplayed it massively, but you know what? I'm a results-oriented kind of guy, so worked out. I'm going to do it again next time. I'm just kidding. I don't know. What do you guys think about that hand? I still have no idea. Leave it in the comments below. But I was in for a whopping $400 and out for $2,707 for a profit of $2,307. That is the biggest cash out I've ever had. My previous biggest was $1,500 something, which was in the first video that I ever made. So this was a great night for me, and I really enjoyed everyone at my table. So thanks for making that a special memory. Yeah, very hyped up about that. I can't believe that happened at 1-3. So, I mean, do what you got to do. Like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate you guys as always. And yeah, thanks for watching.